What is cybersecurity in definition? We can see that cybersecurity is the field that deals with enacting countermeasures against attacks, disruptions, and thefts against and through technological systems via the means of hacking. So there are a lot of foul elements in today's world, especially in this digital age, who know how to use a computer to their advantage to basically achieve all of these things like attacks and thefts and disruptions. And I'm sure you must have heard news as well about this. So cybersecurity is the field that deals with this problem, that counter attacks this problem. So now that we know that all of these things happen via the means of hacking, we need to know what hacking is as well. So what is hacking? Hacking is defined as gaining unauthorized access to a computer, system, or a network. So hacking essentially alludes to when a person tries to hack into a system or gain access to a system by unauthorized means. Basically means that if you go on to Facebook, the legal way of logging into your account would be simply entering your email and password. But what a hacker will do is that he will bypass that measure and get direct access into your account, which he is not supposed to do. So that is what hacking is. So you have a hacker and you have a target system. So this is how it generally works. The hacker has a target in sight, and the systems in today's world are always protected. So there are security measures in place between the hacker or any unauthorized person and the target system. So there are two ways in which the hacker can access this target system. The first way is bypassing the security measures. So as I discussed before, that is the easier way to go about it or the smarter way to go about it. And on the flip side, the hacker can implement some sort of algorithm to basically crack the security of the system as well. There are two ways in which the hacker can accomplish his task. So let us take an example of one such cyber attack. So in 2012, the Shamoon computer virus, also known as the W32 disk track virus, because it affected W32 Windows NET systems, was used against Saudi Arabia's national oil companies. So a group named the Cutting Sword of Justice claimed responsibility for this attack, and it affected about 35,000 Saudi Aramco workstations. Now, Saudi Aramco is the petroleum company in Saudi Arabia. And this caused the company to spend more than a week restoring their services. So, because of the sheer loss that was incurred by this organization due to this attack, this was termed as the biggest hack in history. Right. So fuel trucks needed to be fueled up, and the business systems were not essentially working for the fuel trucks to operate. And that basically halted the entire business for a week until the systems were restored. So by this alone, we can understand the sheer scale of how big these cyber attacks can be. So there are a few types of hackers. So earlier we discussed in the Shamoon attack, a hacker that can be an anarchist group. There are other forms of hackers as well. So there is the black hat hacker, and there's a white hat hacker, and there's the gray hat hacker. So the black hat hacker is the hacker with malicious intent. Now this hacker can be a thief. He can be hacking into systems for money. He can be hacking into systems to steal your personal information and sell it online. And he could be hacking just to have fun, basically, disrupt your day-to-day activities, disrupt your systems, or take your system on ransom. So this is basically what a black hat hacker is, a hacker with malicious intent. Now, polar opposite to that, you have the white hat hacker. Now, this hacker hacks with permission. So this hacker is usually a hacker that is working for an organization that does not want to be hacked. So the organization hires this hacker, tells him to basically hack into their own systems and find out the flaws and vulnerabilities in their system. So that is what the white hat hacker will do. And then there's the combination of the gray hat hacker and the white hat hacker. Now, the black hat hacker has malicious intent. The gray hat hacker most times will not have malicious intent. The gray hat hacker essentially does everything that the white hat hacker does, but without permission. Now, this could result in two things. What would happen is the gray hat hacker can take all of the findings that he has found to an organization and say that you have these flaws and vulnerabilities, you can fix them. and the organization can pay the grey hat hacker, or the organization can file a case against the grey hat hacker because of accessing their systems without the organization's permission. Now, naturally, the black hat hacker is absolutely illegal. The white hat hacker is legal because you're doing all of this with permission. And the gray hat hacker is obviously in the gray area itself, because sometimes it could be legal and sometimes it could be illegal, but it's generally recommended to always go for the white hat hacker profession because it's the legal one. So please make sure you keep these things in mind whenever you're getting into the field of cybersecurity. So what is ethical hacking? Right now, just now we discussed what a white hat hacker is. Now, white hat hacking is a profession in itself, and it's called ethical hacking. So, ethical hacking is the authorized and legal process of finding out vulnerabilities, threats, exploits in a system or computer network through penetration testing, right? So, penetration testing essentially refers to when you try all kinds of hacks and exploits onto a target system and find out in what ways you can access a system that is not supposed to be accessed by those means. So you're a white hat hacker and you've taken up the job of an ethical hacker in the cybersecurity domain in an organization. So you will hack a system with permission, and whatever you find, whatever your results are, whatever you're able to hack and whatever you're not able to hack, you'll log up a report for that, and then you'll send that report to your employer. So all of this information is then sent to the employer. Now it's up to the employer to apply the necessary security patches in order for these hacks to be basically ineffective against the target system. So next up, we can discuss some common hacks that are prevalent in today's world. So firstly, malware. So malware is the most common type of hack, and everybody, I'm sure, who's watching right now has come across this particular entity at one point or the other. These are essentially termed as viruses. For starters, these could be of three types or four types depending on the threat level that it carries. So we have Trojan horses. So Trojan horses pretend to be something else in our computer systems. They disguise themselves as something else, and they could be doing something like accessing key information about our computer, sending it online to some hackers. They could be doing that. They could be monitoring our system. Other than that, they could simply be installing ad scripts onto your web browser. So whenever you open up your web browser, I'm sure some of you have noticed the installation of some toolbars that were not supposed to be there. So these are essentially the tasks of the malware. You must have also seen some viruses that auto-replicate themselves and take up a lot of space in your system, and then you have to format your system entirely. So all of this comes under malware. And then you have phishing. So phishing is a sort of hack that basically alludes to taking the user's information, the login credentials of that user, for starters, for say their social media accounts or their bank accounts. So basically, what the hacker will do is he'll send you a link for a dummy website with all of these. Space areas, these input areas for your email ID or your username or your banking credentials. And if you're vulnerable enough to actually believe that link and you don't actually verify the link, what that link is in your URL, if it's the correct one or not, you might enter those details, and what will happen is your details will essentially go directly to the hacker. And if the hacker is smart enough, what he'll do is he'll actually make the effort to redirect you to the correct page so you never suspect what has happened in the first place. So that is what phishing is. And then we have SQL injection. Now, MySQL databases earlier and even a little bit today are very susceptible to hacks, because once the hacker gets direct access to your database, he can simply run a select script to get the information that he needs. Now, this could be about passwords. Say, if your database contains usernames and passwords, and the hacker is able to get the correct SQL statement into that data space and is able to query your database with those credentials, he can get that information. And same goes for sales data or customers' private information as well. And then you have cross-site scripting. Now, you may have noticed if you went on websites that are not HTTPS secured or certified, you might have noticed some pop-ups that suddenly spring up onto your web browser when you click on a certain link or a download button. Now, these are cross-site scripting hacks. So basically, these are hacks that are not running on the target system. The target system is you itself, who is actually trying to access a website. So your web browser will essentially run some JavaScript code, because in today's day and age, all web pages are almost dynamic. So what will happen is this JavaScript can be used to the hacker's advantage as well. So what the hacker will do is that he will write some malicious code in that JavaScript, and then your browser, in order to run the website, will run that code, and then your web browser or your system can get hacked due to that result. So it's always safer to basically browse websites that are certified and HTTPS secured. Then we have a high level of hack, which is called denial of service attack. So you must have heard about DDoS attacks. So basically what happens is you are running a website, right? You have a server that is equipped to deal with 1,000 requests every minute, say. That is the server's hardware capacity, right? Say if if a hacker gets wind that you have this particular website and he wants to inflict some damage onto you, what the hacker will do is essentially he'll virtualize 1,000,000 requests or 100,000 requests at once and send those requests onto your server. Now, your server, if it's not properly equipped to deal with these DDoS attacks, what the server will do is that the server will try to process all of these requests at once. But the server is only equipped to deal with 1,000 requests at once, right? So the server will crash and your website will go down. And if you're running a successful website, that will result in loss of business as well. And you'll have to pay your maintenance team or your server maintenance team or installation team to basically fix that. So all of that is there. And that is what a denial of service attack is, so that any other user who's trying to access that website will not be able to access it because of slow response times or basically the crashing of the website's server itself. And then we have a man in the middle attack. So this involves mathematics and cryptography. So basically, if you use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or any kind of online messaging tool, you'll see this new notification that has come up in the recent days, which is this chat is now end-to-end encrypted, right? So end-to-end encryption basically means that whenever you send your string message to your recipient, the message is not sent as plain text, right, over the internet. The message is encrypted first using some sort of an encryption algorithm. That encrypted message is then transferred over the internet to the recipient of your message, and then it's decrypted at the recipient's end, right? So what the man in the middle attack is basically taking that encrypted message in the middle, using a decryption algorithm to decrypt it and find out the real meaning of that message. Now, this might not be that important for personal messaging and whatnot, but it's certainly a very damaging thing to happen if you're dealing with government agencies, and the risk of espionage and national secrets being revealed is very high. So it's especially important to ensure that these sorts of attacks do not happen in those organizations, and they have strong encryption algorithms. So let us now look at the importance of cybersecurity as a profession and field. So why do organizations need ethical hackers? Take an example. In short, the summary of this, and the source is Bloomberg Law, $7.5 million had to be paid by Google because of a vulnerability in their systems. Some information about their users were leaked, So information of up to 500,000 users were leaked and exposed due to the software glitches that the Google Plus website had. It is now defunct, but earlier it was existing there. You must have heard about Google Plus. So informations about those users were leaked, and the users basically sued against Google, and the settlement was about $7.5 billion. So you can see how costly it could get for organizations if they do not maintain cybersecurity in the services that they provide. So it's essential that these glitches do not exist, and an ethical hacker will do exactly that. The ethical hacker will test the databases, will test the website and the services, and ensure that these exploits do not exist. So hiring ethical hackers can save millions, if not billions of dollars for these organizations. And these ethical hackers can keep businesses securely afloat with the user privacy of that particular service under complete lockdown. So how to get a job as an ethical hacker? Right now, we've discussed all the basic terminologies and what the entire backspace is, the background is for this particular profession. How to get a job? So the best way to go about it is getting a certification. So you may be extremely skilled, you may be an amateur, but the best way to get an ethical hacking job is to get an industry accepted certification, a certification that is endorsed and accepted by the majority of companies all around the world when they're hiring for this particular profession. So a certification will essentially ensure to your employer that you have already been tested as a candidate. So you've already done your homework, you already know about the profession, you already know how to do your job tasks. And that naturally decreases your training cost. The employer doesn't have to train you in anything particularly. And then you can essentially get your job easier and get a competitive edge over other candidates. So how to get a job as an ethical hacker? What certification should you go for? And certification that I would recommend to you is the Certified Ethical Hacker Certification. So what is this certification? Let us get into that. So essentially, the CEH certification, the short for a Certified Ethical Hacker, is an industry accepted accolade by the EC Council. Now, the EC Council is an organization which issues these certifications. So similar to the CEH certifications, it issues other certifications as well. So by demonstrating the knowledge of hacking skills to access or assess security and vulnerabilities in a target system, in a lawful and legitimate manner. So definitely you're getting a certification for ethical hacking. So you obviously have to be lawful. You cannot be a gray hat hacker in order to get this certification and get a job in it. You need to be legal and legitimate in your ways. So once you've gotten the certification, what does it certify? What can the employer be assured about, right? So the employer can be sure that the candidate knows how to approach the target with a mindset of a skilled hacker, right? So it's important whenever you're penetration testing or testing the flaws of a system that you know the best ways to hack into a system, right? Because a hacker will use the maximum means possible to him in order to get into a system. So you need to be one step ahead of the hacker in order to hack your system first and know how the hacker can hack into your system and not let it happen in the first place. The candidate knows how to detect vulnerabilities. The candidate should be proficient at utilizing all of the hacking related tools in the exam syllabus. So the syllabus for the CEH certification exam contains a bunch of tools, and you need to be proficient at them in order to pass the certification, and you need to be proficient at them in order to get a good job in this particular cybersecurity domain. So let's continue now. Let us talk about the exam itself. Because we are on the road to become a certified ethical hacker. So what should we know about this exam that we have to pass in order to get this certification? So let us look at the exam details straight from ecouncil.org. So CEH is an MCQ exam. It contains 125 questions. The test duration for this particular exam is 4 hours, and the test delivery method is online. The exam prefix, you can see the code is 312-50 and 312-50 for view. So these are two platforms where you can give this test essentially. And the passing score differs from time to time. So depending on the cutoff for that particular year, your passing score can vary, but it's right around 60 to 80%, somewhere in that corner. And it depends on the cutoff. So this is directly from the website itself. You can look more about it on the website. So what are the skills required in general in order to pass this exam? What is the background that is required? So you need to know about your operating systems because operating systems are installed on virtually every smart device like laptops, mobile phones, your smart TVs and everything. These are all running on operating systems, whether it is Windows or Linux or Mac or iOS or Android. So you need to be able to navigate your way around the command lines of these particular operating systems really well. Then you need to have networking knowledge because hacking often alludes to hacking devices inside the network. So you need to have your network terminologies clear and how data packets are delivered within the network in order to exploit it. So networking knowledge is very important as a prerequisite for this particular exam and profession. Then you have hacking knowledge. So all of the things that we discussed earlier on, you need to be proficient and well versed with the linguistics related to these particular hacks and gaining and maintaining access. So essentially getting into your target system and ensuring that you have access to that target system for a continuous period by installing a backdoor onto that system. Then wiping traces. So as a hacker, you need to be able to make sure that whatever traces you have that you've ever accessed this particular system are not there when there is an investigation or something. Otherwise, you will be caught, right? So you need to ensure that there are no traces of you in that particular system. And then cryptography and password cracking. So you need to be well aware about cryptography methods in order to execute man-in-the-middle attacks, password brute forces, basically create an algorithm in order to decrypt passwords or messages itself. Code of ethics. Now, this is the aspect of ethical hacking, and that is the paramount aspect because it deals with ethics itself, right? As a hacker, as an ethical hacker, you cannot go about your profession without any rules. You have a certain bunch of rules, and everything that you do has to be documented and done in the right way. So that is the code of ethics. So you need to know all of the laws and policies and acts related to cybersecurity or cyber crimes in your particular region. And according to that, you have to execute your day-to-day tasks as a certified ethical hacker. And there is a section related to ethics in the CEH exam itself. So you need to be aware of these things in order to solve those questions. So next up, what about the advanced skills that are required for higher positions, right? So we discussed earlier on the basic skills that you need to be proficient in. Now the advanced skills that you need to be absolutely proficient in, like have extensive knowledge about, right? Those are operating systems, scripting. Now, scripting comes in when you're dealing with more advanced hacks, right? So for SQL injection, you definitely need to know SQL. For cross-site scripting, you need to know JavaScript. For operating system related hacks, you need to know your C language, and Python essentially is an all-rounder in this particular domain. So if you know Python, you can essentially execute a lot of good hacks as well. So scripting knowledge is a must when dealing with advanced positions, advanced or higher positions in this particular domain. And then networking knowledge, definitely 100% networking knowledge is required. So let's talk about the weightage of the topics. So let's look at the different things that come in this exam. Firstly, you have your background. So the background accounts for 21.8%. So this is some background knowledge that is required. Analysis assessment, 12.7%. Then you have security, which is about 23.7%. Tools, systems, programs related to ethical hacking, 28.9%. Procedures and methodology, 8.8%. Regulation policy, 1.9%. Then you have ethics, which is about 2.2%. So let us look at all of these. So the topic that comes first is background. So you need to know your network and communication really well, the information security threats and attack vectors. So you need to know the pattern of attacks or the types of hacks that you're dealing with. So you need to know about all kinds of prevalent hacks really well and how they function. Information security technologies, you need to know how your antivirus works, you need to know how your JavaScript blocker works, you need to know how your web browser detects whether a JavaScript code is malicious or not, whether a website is safe to access or not. You need to know about these things because these deal with information security. Then you have analysis and assessment. So information security assessment and analysis deals with whenever you're tasked with penetration testing a system, you need to assess all of the security vulnerabilities in that particular system. So that is related to assessment, and the processes that are required in order to assess this. All of this is basically comes under the assessment processes. Then you have security itself. So information security controls. So you need to know about the countermeasures against security attacks. Then there's information security attack detection. So in order to do that, you need to know if your system is under attack. So the methodologies that deal with detecting this particular attack is called information security attack detection. Then you have information security attack prevention. So measures that are put in place to deter information security attacks are called information security attack prevention. So an example for that would be a firewall. Then you have tools, systems, and programs. So these essentially deal with the specific tools that are used on a day-to-day basis in the cybersecurity domain in order to deter these attacks. So these deal with information security systems. So essentially, whatever security measures are built inside operating systems itself and other software components, information security programs. So within those operating systems, you can install some programs as well in order to basically protect your system or detect any attacks or viruses in your system. So an example for that would be malware bytes and information security tools. So these tools essentially provide you with a dashboard to monitor and maintain the security measures on your system. Then you have procedures and methodology. So now we deal with the more complex science and study of dealing with the different types of attacks that can happen, right? So there are procedures that are to be followed. These exact procedures can help us deter most of the attacks. So we have to study these procedures. And there's also assessing the software's feasibility itself. So say you have an antivirus software, which is an information security tool, essentially. You have that software. And you need to assess the feasibility of that software against modern hacks, right? So in that case, you will use these predefined methodologies in order to basically understand if the tool is usable or not for your particular organization. So, what is regulation and policy? So, as we discussed before, the code of ethics. So, this regulation and policy essentially refers to that itself. You need to be aware about the information security laws, acts, and policies in whichever region you are, and for whichever region's organization you're working for. And then finally, ethics. So, all of the laws, policies, and acts aside, there are ethics of your own as well. So you need to have that clear in your head, because sometimes, even if the law says one thing, your company might be doing something that is on the wrong and might be expecting you to assist them in their wrongdoings. So, despite being employed by the company, you are not supposed to do that as a certified ethical hacker. So, some things you should know for yourself as well, and these also are included as questions in your ethical hacking exam. So, what is the average income of a certified ethical hacker? Now that we know everything about this profession and how you can go about it, the certifications that you require, the posts that would be available for you in the beginning would be certified ethical hacker, and the income for that would be $75,000 in the US and 7 lakhs per annum in India, and in the UK it's about 46,000 pounds. So this is the average itself. So this is not the starting salary of an ethical hacker or the maximum salary of an ethical hacker. This is what you get at an average. So the more proficient you become at your trade, the more advanced skills you learn as you move further in your career. This could increase to up to $150,000 in the US to about 300 to $400,000 as well. So that depends on the seniority of your position and the experience that you have in your particular field and the organization that you're working for at the scale of that organization, essentially.
So let's move along and talk about the average salary of the cybersecurity specialist. So these people who are working in this field for protecting our data, their average salary in numbers looks like in USA, if you are a cybersecurity specialist, you're looking at a figure of around $102,000. And if you're in India, you're looking at an average base of 8.25, although this number seems very less right now. Most of the cybersecurity specialists are paid a lot more than that. And the job roles which you get decide what kind of an average salary you're getting. So as you go along with more experience, you get more money. The more skills that you have, the different kind of job role that you have, and the different responsibilities that you get you the bigger numbers and get you in the bigger field for that matter. And if you are in UK, you are looking at a figure of around £78,000. So that is the figures. And the companies which are hiring for cybersecurity specialists in this time of quarantine as well are the industry giants. And you must recognize almost all of these images which are there on the screen, all of these logos. So you can start from the left hand side corner, all of your social media websites, everybody, may it be LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, or Twitter, or anyone else whoever has an online presence in terms of business are looking for people in cybersecurity. So those are the companies there, and there are other big names who again hire for cybersecurity. Top names would be Mu Sigma, IBM, uh, Oracle, Siemens, Skype, Google, Adobe, Ola, or basically any app which you see on the internet, or which is basically a company who is posting some kind of an e-commerce or anything of that sort, will be having cybersecurity specialists to protect their business and protect their consumers from any kind of cyber breach, may it be their data or may it be their conversation or anything that anyone is eavesdropping or anything like that. These are the companies who will be looking to hire cybersecurity specialists. So you can imagine the amount of openings which are out there, because they're almost all of the every day that you live, day to day life, everything that you use is some way, some form related to internet anywhere. From you ordering food online through Swiggy, Zomato, or any other food chain or food app, to you buying groceries from Big Basket or Grofers. Every company will have cybersecurity specialists, and it comes down to texting to your loved ones through WhatsApp or any other app that you're using, or Facebook, or watching your YouTube videos. Everything comes for cybersecurity. So everybody is hiring for cybersecurity. That's why it is a very much in demand field. So far we have discussed about how much money you will get and what cybersecurity is. But the major thing that we wanted to discuss here are the different job roles which are there in cybersecurity. Because as you know, there is no linear path to a successful career in cybersecurity. Most of the people enter the security field straight out of college, or they might do a transition from another IT or another job role that they have. But no matter where you start, all cybersecurity career begins with a general IT experience, and you need to understand basically how the technology works before you even can begin to secure it. You must understand how you have to work with how that particular technology works. Only then you can go about, okay, this is how it works and this is how it might be vulnerable, and this is what we can do to protect it.
Just a quick info, guys. At Intellipaat, we provide cybersecurity online training in collaboration with EC Council, completely mentored with industry experts. For more information about the course, please do contact our course advisors. Now, let's continue with the session.
So before even you start protecting it, you need to understand about the technology that you are going to protect, and that's why you must have some IT presence in order to work for any of these job roles that we are talking about, right? So let's quickly jump on and talk about the different job roles which are out there. So there are several job roles, and we are going to be classifying the four of the major roles which are out there. So we'll be beginning with security architect, and then we'll move on and talk about security consultant, and then there is ethical hacker, and then there is security analyst. So a security architect is basically someone who is tasked with designing, building, and implementation of network and computer security for an organization. Security architects are responsible for creating complex security structures and ensuring that they function very properly. They design the security systems to combat different kinds of malwares, different types of hackers intrusions, or maybe DDoS attacks. So basically, these people are the people who design how the your application will be interacting with different things through different protocols. They decide which protocols has to be there, which subnet to go, and everything. So the entire architecture of your security domain is done by the security architect. And in United States, these people earn an average salary of around $118,000, and with more experience you get better at it. So if you are working as a cybersecurity architect, you will be required to plan, research, and design durable security architects for various IT projects that you have. You will be developing requirements for networks, firewalls, routers, and different things related to the network devices. You will be performing vulnerability testing, security assessments, and risk analysis. And finally, you will be tasked with a research and implementation of the latest security standards like 256 SHA, and different security standards are there for different things. So you need to research upon how to implement those and the new security standards which are there, and you have to follow the best practices and stuff like that. And every part of it is basically the job of a security architect. The next job that comes is the security consultant. Now, the security consultant is basically is a catch-all cybersecurity expert, right? These people assess the cybersecurity risks, problems, and solutions for various different organizations, and they guide them in protecting the security of their physical as well as physical capital and the data that they have. So you can think about it as it is similar to the word consultant is there. So these people basically are the people who are called by different organizations to look at their preemptive or primitive given security standards which they have, and they are asked to tell if they see any vulnerabilities, or they are asked to consult about how we can go about in creating our own and what are the different standards that we need to have. So these people have to be the experts in the field of cybersecurity to in order to deliver the best knowledge to various different organizations which are working. Not all the organizations which is out there are very expert in cybersecurity. Some are very some people have very small businesses. They don't really care about that much in depth about cyber security. They don't know it, so that's why they hire security consultants who come up and help them set up the networks that they need in order to have their own environment very safe. So these security consultants need to be very flexible and savvy, as they deal with a wide range of variables when they're assessing this security system across various diverse companies and the industries, because they're working with different kinds of industries, different kinds of companies. There will be different security standards involved, so they need to be flexible and they need to understand the whole picture at once, so that they can consult in those people in a better manner, so that the end result is um, a secure one for that matter. So as a security consultant, your daily tasks may include determining the best ways to protect the computers, networks, data, and information systems from potential attacks. You'll be performing again the vulnerability test and security assessments. You'll be interviewing staff and department heads to uncover the security issues. So you'll be talking to everyone about if they know about some potential breach or how did that happen, and you will interview across the people to understand what your security system looks like and how vulnerable it is. And then you will be testing security solutions using industry standard analysis methods, and you'll be providing technical supervision and guidance to a security team. As a consultant, your task is to guide them through the way of reaching cyber security, right? Then the next job role which comes on the hand is of the ethical hacker. Now, ethical hacker is basically someone who is a penetration tester, you can call him as well. So basically the job of these people is to find the weakness in your IT systems, right? May it be your networks or applications, whatever. using the same knowledge and tactics that a cyber criminal hacker would do. So their job is similar to someone who is trying to hack you, but they are doing it for ethical reasons, so that they don't hack you for the reasons that they want money from you. They hack you and find the vulnerability of the system so that your company can work upon it and make their entire infrastructure more secure. So these people find the bugs or the different things which are vulnerable inside system and report it for you, so that you can be more secure. So penetration testers generally use a series of tools to simulate real life cyber attack. They identify the weak spots and they help the organizations improve their security posture. The average salary of a penetration tester in USA is around $80,000, and many penetration testers and ethical hackers uh, uh, have a very similar job role. So, as a penetration tester, you will be expected to perform penetration analysis on the web application, networks, and computer system. You will be asked to uncover the security holes and pinpoint the methods of attackers and different things that they can use to exploit the weaknesses in your system. So you have to uncover those things as well. Then you will have to research, document, and discuss the findings with the management and the IT team. So whoever is there, you need to tell them about your findings. Okay, these are the vulnerabilities which we saw, and this is the way you might be able to improve it. And after that, you'll be tasked with designing and the implementation of new penetration tools and tests, so that you can check for more vulnerabilities. And if there is some new kind of attack of any, if anyone has created, then you need to be well versed with it, so that you are ready for those kinds of attacks as well. And then finally, there is a job of a security analyst. So these people are basically the people who are involved with your IT infrastructure. They go through the logs and everything, and they tell you if there is some potential breach which has happened right now. So they can tell it through various different ways. They can, for example, if there is a DDoS attack on your system, so your uh, uh, CPU usage would plummet or it will go high, and the CPU usage will go high, or there will be some storage problems causing or something like that. So the job of the security analyst is to go through the system, look through the details, crunch the numbers, and find out if there was any potential breach at some given point of time, or if someone tried to breach you at some point of time and fail. So the both of those things, and how they were trying to do it. So the analyst is job is to find out if there was anything happening which was fishy. So that is basically the job of the security analyst. So these are the various different job roles across the domains that you can apply for if you're looking to become a cybersecurity specialist. Let's see a job description stating the same. So this is a job description of a penetration tester given by Cisco. So basically the job description includes performing of penetration tests on web applications, uncover the security holes, and pinpoint the methods used by the attackers to exploit the system, research documents, and discuss the findings with the IT department. And the same thing as I mentioned before. So these are the job in the job description of the penetration testers. You'll find the similar things across the domains, because these people will be expected to uh, find different ways to get through your system, so that when, let's say, a potential hacker someday tries to attack you in a similar fashion, they won't be able to do it because you have covered your tracks before by doing penetration testing. So that is the job description, guys. Let's move on and talk about the skills that you will be needing in order to become a cybersecurity specialist. So, in order to become a cybersecurity specialist, the first and the foremost thing that you need to have is some IT background. And for having that IT background, you must understand programming and scripting. So, as you would have seen, a lot of people do in various web series. Although I would say that is not a very accurate representation of what how lives look like as an ethical hacker or penetration tester, but the programming part remains. So you need to have a very good understanding of how programming works, how algorithm works, how different systems are designed, how scripting is done, and basically the basic understanding of the infrastructure of IT is very, very, very important if you are looking to become a cybersecurity specialist. Then you need to understand different network protocols. So there are different standard protocols which are out there, and many different protocols work in different ways. There is Aloha protocol, there's a lot of different things. Then there are hashing standards which you have to follow, and a lot of different things. So by network protocols, I basically mean you must understand the different security standard things which are out there, different network protocols which are out there, how systems communicate with one another, and how you can make them secure. So understanding the different layers of protocols which are followed as well is also very important when it comes to cybersecurity. And understanding those will basically allow you to understand how the system is communicating with one another, because not many times you just need to penetrate the system. Sometimes people can hijack your data midway, like if, for example, if I send a packet from my end to the other end of the server, there could be someone listening on the way and they can tamper with the data. So you need to be secure that while even transferring the data in the pathway, there is no one listening or no one trying to gain some data from the information which is being sent. So that is why it is very important to understand different network protocols as well. And then you will be expected to do penetration testing, and there are various different tools that you can do for doing so. Nmap is a good example of it, and they use various different variety of tools are out there. So depending on the use case, different kinds of penetration testing can be done, and sometimes as simple as DDoS attacks sometimes work. So you need to be well versed with that as well. And once you understand how the penetration testing works, you need to be ready for these attacks. So there's one job where you prepare your system for it, and then there is another job to detect if anyone is trying to attack your system, right? So the penetration testing, network protocols and everything, you do it beforehand to make your system secure. But let's say if we were attacked, in those case we need to find it as soon as possible before they do major amount of damage, right? So before they hit us with the damage, we need to detect their intrusion beforehand, before they get very deep into the system and extract very valuable information from us. So for doing that, also for doing intrusion detection, there's a lot of different things which are out there. A lot of softwares are available, and you can use various different kinds of metrics to understand if they have intruded your data in some form or the other. For that, again, you need to understand intrusion detection. And then there is something called as a malware analysis. So basically there's a lot of lot of softwares which are out there which can infect your system, and infecting one system can even infect your entire network security standards. And to understand how these malwares work and warn your team beforehand, okay, these things might affect your system, and you have to be ready for it. So an understanding of how they can attack your system is also very important before you go ahead and secure your system, right? So understanding of those different softwares which basically infect your system is very, very necessary if you're aiming to become a cybersecurity specialist. So that is about the skill, guys.
The first point in this comparison between ethical hacking and cybersecurity, let us check out the mode of working. See, what happens with ethical hacking is that ethical hacking concerns with the company people itself breaching their own security methodologies that are created by cybersecurity experts, right? So cybersecurity experts, they create certain firewalls, they create barriers and all of that. Then later the same company will hire ethical hackers to make sure to find ways on how they can, breach these barriers and break down the firewalls. So it's a game between these two guys, to be very honest with you, because as I told you, a cybersecurity professional has the capability to recognize and resolve any sort of issues that are present. But then there might be some things that are not visible to the naked eye for a cybersecurity expert, right? So there may be backdoor approaches that one can take into the company. This is where an ethical hacker comes into the picture. And then when we're talking about the end goal of ethical hacking and cybersecurity, ethical hacking is completely concerned about exploiting the company itself. See, exploiting in a good way and not a bad way. Understand that, because here we're trying to find out all the weak points, and in fact we're just demonstrating total failure and security. And if you're wondering, hey, isn't that a bad thing? No, here it's a very good thing, because a very good ethical hacker has the capability of hacking the organization and showing the failure. The victory aspect of ethical hacking is to show failure in the company. Because once you know that there is a failure, you can have cybersecurity experts fix that. So what do cybersecurity experts do? Well, this entire field in general is completely concerned about the creation of policies. First of all, after the policies have been created, you have to make sure that there is no unauthorized use of these policies or any sort of violation in these policies that will lead to the unauthorized access of other people as well. So in that particular case, cybersecurity people create the policies. Ethical hackers make sure to find ways to destroy and work their way into the company with bypassing all of these security measures. Then they report it to the cybersecurity team, and the cybersecurity team fixes it. This goes on in an iteration. Coming to the third point in the comparison, it is production environment. See, what actually happens is that, with ethical hacking, we're trying to evaluate the system based on all the policies that already exist, right? These policies have been created by cybersecurity experts that the ethical hackers use and evaluate, and to see how they can get into the system. What cybersecurity is completely doing in the case of production environment in a company is that these guys will take care of the auditing of all of the security technologies that get implemented, right? See, once you have certain technology implemented, you need to audit it, you need to keep it in check and make sure that as a cybersecurity expert, you're not leaving any room for any sort of unauthorized hacking. In that particular case, this is exactly how it works in a production environment too. A cybersecurity team involves auditing the security technologies, while ethical hacking is completely concerned with the security policies that are already existent in the company. And that's a very important difference that you have to know about, because cybersecurity experts can create new policies while ethical hacking experts cannot. They have to work with the existing ones that are there and break them. So with this, we can move on to point number 4, where we'll be talking about reporting. In both of these fields, let me tell you that reporting is very, very important, because ethical hacking actually involves the creation of very thorough documentation to show what loopholes are present in this. So ethical hacking completely involves creating very, very thorough documentation, because using those documentation is how you will explain to the company members, the people who are not into security, the people who are probably a non-technical audience, saying, hey, this is where things have went wrong. This is the thing that we picked up which could lead to a vulnerability, so get it fixed. So to do all of that, you need to have very good documentation skills, and of course ethical hackers have this skill as well. But will you require so much of documentation for cybersecurity? Well, let me tell you, cybersecurity is all about maintainability, right? So having the documentation of how things are going day to day is more important rather than having things which are not in the scope of cybersecurity there as well. So to keep your documentation in check and to keep your daily working in check, you will have documents, yes, but these documents are more concerned about maintainability rather than the daily operation as well. So in terms of reporting, ethical hacking has a bit of an advantage or an edge here because of the thorough documentation that it offers. And then when we have to talk about client usage, well, ethical hacking, as I just told you, it involves showing the weakness of a product, right? So when you have a client who comes to you saying, hack my product, you're going to take all the measures, all the tools, all the techniques, you're going to hack into the client and you're going to show, hey, this is where the weaknesses are. This is how I breached into the system. This is how people can potentially breach into the system. So make sure you protect these. A cybersecurity expert takes a very different approach, because here all we're trying to show is the latest methodologies, the latest techniques that we have, and how best we can implement them to safeguard all the technology that we have, to make sure that we don't give a chance to hackers to hack. That's the pretty simple difference that lies in between how clients approach ethical hacking experts and cybersecurity experts, and what they get at the end of it as well. Coming to point number 6, we have to talk about problem solving. See, problem solving is a very important thing, because with ethical hacking, we take an approach of an attacking stance. Because here, ethical hacking experts will show you how an attack can be launched, how it can be succeeded, against a company or an individual or whatever it is, and how data can be stolen without their permission. But with cybersecurity, what we're trying to talk about is we're trying to show if there is any violation in the policies that exist that might, lead to that as well. But then, if there are no violation in the policies, if all of the security measures are right, if all of the policies are right, and if they're perfect, it means there is no requirement for an ethical hacker. Because if your cybersecurity methodologies and tools and techniques are bulletproof, then you would not require ethical hackers, right? But that's not the case. We are hiring more ethical hackers these days than cybersecurity experts, and there's a reason for that. No matter how good your cybersecurity methodology gets, as there is a code that says for every lock there is a key, and for every lock which is probably a cybersecurity firewall, a hacker will know how to work around the key. So in that particular case, ethical hacking is very, very important in solving the problems. Point number 7 that we have to talk about is data access. See, what happens is that with ethical hackers, right, they need to hunt for new methods, they need to hunt for novel things to hack into an already existing security system. So, an ethical hacker, if he's a person who is, sourced out of the company itself, he or she might not have the access to complete working of the company. So, he or she is just given the task to see how, you can get into the system and breach the network. But an already existing cybersecurity expert in the company will have complete access to the system, so they will know it thoroughly in and out. So this is where the expertise of an ethical hacker will come to the picture. It doesn't mean that a cybersecurity professional is not an expert, because the cybersecurity methodologies of today are almost bulletproof. I want to say that it's almost bulletproof, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that can be beaten, and cybersecurity systems are one of these things as well. So ethical hackers need to have the capability to work completely out of their comfort zone, while cybersecurity people, they will have all the access to the data, tools, methodologies, techniques, whatever you name it, and they'll have to work with that. Coming to point number 8, I'm sure you guys are curious about the job roles that exist in between ethical hacking and cybersecurity, right? So ethical hacking has a lot of roles as well, but the major roles that the world is hiring for right now is penetration testers and security managers. These guys, as the name suggests, a penetration tester is a person who has the capability to penetrate into a company, penetrate into a network in an unauthorized way and work with it as well. And then when we're talking about cybersecurity professionals, we have CISO, we have SPC engineers, we have security analysts, and many other jobs as well. So if you're thinking about, hey, is there only 3 or 4 roles in each of these domains? The answer is no, because at the end of the day, if you have a product that's probably connected to the internet, you will require some sort of cybersecurity, right? So now think about the millions and millions of computers across the globe that's connected to the internet. You need the toughest cybersecurity methodologies put into place, and you need the most skilled ethical hackers to find loopholes and fix them, right? So in that particular case, there are many other job roles, than just the ones that are mentioned here too. So coming to the next point, where we talk about the average salary of these developers, ethical hackers actually get a very good pay, somewhere around $122,000 per annum in the USA and around 12 lakhs per annum in India. And cybersecurity professionals get an average salary somewhere around $135,000 per annum in the USA and 13 lakhs per annum in India. These are the average salaries of both of these domains, and you do have to understand that there will always be a requirement for cybersecurity experts and ethical hackers, no matter what. See, the entire world can go into a recession, but people will be still hiring for these guys because they want to keep all their data secure and not lose it just because there's a recession going on, right? So when you think about it, it's a very bulletproof job that pays a very good salary. There's always someone hiring for it. So if you have enough skills, if you are certified in ethical hacking, a lot of potential employers will be interested to hire you as well. Coming to the last point on this comparison, which one is easier to learn? Well, easier to learn is subjective, because whenever we talk about ethical hacking, you need to be creative and you need to have a lot of out of box thinking to be able to crack into system, right? Because see, you have to find out ways in which an actual hacker would hack into a system, and then you will have to trace the same steps as well. So you need that kind of a thinking. You need to have a third person approach here to make sure you find ways, and of course you have to be very good with the tools that exist as well to break, let's say, a Wi-Fi password, or to break into a very secure network, anything for that matter. And then we're talking about cybersecurity actually involves detailed learning methodologies. You have to learn a lot of tools, you have to learn a lot of techniques, and the other thing is that, right, whenever we're talking about cybersecurity, there is no one solution for every problem. So each of these organizations will have their own methodologies, their own policies, their own structures, right? They have their entire cybersecurity architecture, which could be unique to their organization. So as in when you progress in your career, if you are a part of a very big company, you will understand that their architecture is very different to probably someone else's. So in that particular case, whenever we're thinking about learnability, understand that you can get started with both ethical hacking and cybersecurity in a very easy way. But as you grow into your career, you might move into tools that are unique to their organizations. In the case of cybersecurity, and with ethical hacking, you need to have the capability to learn new tools, because at the end of the day, cybersecurity companies can provide very good tools, very good firewalls, which will prevent ethical hackers from hacking them. But then to allow for all of that, of course, ethical hackers will find their way to get into the systems, or actual hackers as well. So in that particular case, if I have to pick one, I would suggest ethical hacking would be a little easier and a little more fun to begin with as well. But then that's my opinion. Head to the comment section and of course do let us know yours as well. So you might have a question saying, okay, I know what ethical hacking is, I know what cybersecurity is, I understand the comparison that exists, but which is better? Now, again, this is another very, very finicky question to answer because there is no such thing as one being better than the other, right? So, ethical hacking is a part of cybersecurity, and ethical hacking will ask you to think completely like an hacker. Because if you have the capability to think like an actual hacker, it means you can beat him or her at their own game. So, you need to play the game. You need to be either as good as the hacker, an actual hacker, or be better than he or she to make sure that you beat them at their game. That's a very important thing that you should know. And then when we're talking about cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity is all about preparing for what comes next, right? So you'll be planning for the next attack to make sure you can stop it in a way. But you're not wasting time thinking about what happened in the past, how to fix it, and all of that, because this will eventually happen. You would have fixed a lot of vulnerabilities in the past, but your focus as a cybersecurity enthusiast or an expert is to make sure that you keep your eyes wide open to check what's happening with your product in the near future, because vulnerabilities are always there. Hackers are always waiting on the edge to have unauthorized access to your machine. So in that particular case, you really need to work on the future rather than dwindling on the past in the case of cybersecurity as well. So this is the difference that lies in between ethical hacking and cybersecurity. Do head to the comment section and let us know which you would prefer, or which is which you're most interested in. Basically, is it ethical hacking? Is it cybersecurity, and why? So let's head to the comment section. I'll be more than happy to interact with you guys there.
So we are going to be talking about data security now. Now, the branch of cybersecurity that deals with the protection of data in specific is called data security. Now, every application, every organization that is operating has a database, right? That may be for a website, that may be for a web application, a mobile application, a video game, a social media website, or just an organization to keep track of its employees, right? So everywhere there is a database that is situated that keeps track of all of that. So data security essentially deals with securing that data, right? So that is pretty common. And let us look at the use cases for what data security covers, right? So data security covers cloud data security. Now, a lot of databases, a lot of online services, ETL services, online processing services are situated in the cloud these days because nobody wants to buy hardware and store it in-house to basically have their servers and have their utilities in the office itself. A lot of people use cloud services like Amazon, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure, and it is very important for the data that is there in the cloud, whether it's in storage or it in a processing pipeline, to be secured. So that particular branch that deals with the data security in the cloud is cloud data security. So that is covered under data security. And then one of the most common ways of data security is definitely data encryption. So basically that means any file that is there, any message that you're sending, you can basically encrypt that message through the means of cryptography, have a key for it, and then send it to your recipient. And the recipient would use that key to decrypt it and see its original meaning. This is basically done so that anybody who actually is able to access your system, your storage, is not able to access the actual content of the data without the key or the password. So that is data encryption. Then we have hardware security. So hardwares also have vulnerabilities which hackers can use to exploit and get into the systems. So that should be secured as well. You should use hardware that is secure on a firmware level so that nobody is able to exploit it. Then we have a very critical aspect of security, which is password management. Now, it is very important that you keep a password that is very tough to crack, right? It does not have commonly used words. It has a combination of capital, small letters, numbers, special characters if possible. So that is how your password should look like. Because the more complex your password is, the harder it is to actually crack it due to hashing methodologies. Password management is incredibly critical. Then we have payment security. So payment security deals with the aspect of actually performing online transactions, which involve bank accounts or online money deposits, right? So you need to have measures that ensure the security of those payment methodologies from any external attackers. So, say for instance, you're making a payment for a product you've bought online. So, it should be incredibly secure as well because it is involving your bank account, and anybody else who is actually able to access that network shouldn't be able to see the credentials that you're using for your bank account or the actual transaction workflow that is happening between the website or you and the bank. And then we have email and messaging security. So emails within organizations are incredibly confidential as well. Then we have mobile application security. So a lot of you have Android mobile phones, right? There are other options as well, like iOS for the iPhone. In Android specifically, since there is not a strong regulation policy of applications on the Play Store, it is very crucial for the user of the device to ensure that the applications that he is installing onto his mobile phone are safe in nature. They are not asking for any overreaching permissions. So he needs to ensure all of that. And specifically, when you're installing the application and you're trying to run any feature of it, if the application is asking for permission to have read access or write access to the contents of your phone, be sure that that application actually needs it and can be trusted. So it's very important to be aware of the security threats and to implement security measures on your web browser as well. Be sure that you're using a trusted web browser like one of the common ones like Google Chrome or Opera or Firefox for that matter. Be sure that you're not actually installing any sort of malicious toolbar or any malicious extension onto your web browser because those could be really harmful. And be sure when you're going to a website, you're not clicking on random links that install some scripts onto your web browser because obviously web browsers are using JavaScript to run the dynamic elements of the website. So these are some of the most common ways of ensuring data security because obviously if you're working for an organization, it is very important to secure your data as well as your private information. So, moving on, let us talk about the need for data security from an enterprise standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, right? So, let's talk about an example. So, let's talk about the Google data leak that happened in 2018. So, essentially, what happened was the information of up to 500,000 users was exposed due to software glitches, and this gave third party applications access to the private data of those users. While nothing of harm came from this, but it was still incredibly irresponsible on the part of Google. So this happened on the now defunct Google Plus service. And Google also had to pay $7.5 million as a settlement for the users that had filed a lawsuit against Google for the data leak, right? So it obviously cost them money. And we can talk about the big basket data breach if we are talking about the more recent ones. So this is an article from India Today. So basically, when you're shopping for any e-commerce organization like Flipkart, like Amazon, you're essentially entering your card details as well, so that your future transactions do not require you to enter them again. So Big Basket is one of those websites. It is essentially used for grocery items to be delivered to your doorstep. So what happened was, due to a data breach, the information of over 40 million users was leaked. Big Basket has now acknowledged this breach and has filed an active police complaint against the hackers. So these are some of the two large-scale examples of what can happen if there is no data security or inadequate data security in these large organizations. Now, let us talk about what is at stake here. So, say for instance, we're talking about Amazon, for example. So, Amazon must have a user database and must have a sales database where they record all of the transactions that happen on their website. Amazon also uses a server, and Amazon is also using a proprietary algorithm in their recommendation engine. So these are essentially four things that Amazon does not want any hacker to have access to. But what if a hacker gets access to all of these four things? It could lead to a monetary loss. So this monetary loss could come from the proprietary algorithm being leaked to the hacker, and then that hacker selling this proprietary algorithm to a third party. and that could basically mean that that third party could get into the e-commerce industry and perform as good as Amazon from a technological standpoint, causing Amazon to lose its market share because it is their proprietary algorithm. Secondly, it could also lead to a lawsuit, right? So that means if a lawsuit happens, Amazon would obviously have to take responsibility for the data leak of the user, and then Amazon would have to pay a certain amount of money to settle that lawsuit. And overall, if any of this does happen and it becomes public knowledge, it could lead to public distrust. It could lead to investors not investing in the stocks of that company. It could lead to a lot of other things as well that isn't a good look for the company in general. So it is incredibly critical for any company to ensure data security because data is the most valuable commodity today and you need to protect it as at all costs. So moving on, let's talk about the measures that can be implemented for data security. So the first that we discussed earlier on is data encryption. Now, through cryptographic means, there are a lot of data encryption algorithms available for emails, for messages, for the data that is shared between the server and the user whenever the user is transacting with a particular web application. Then we have data masking. So data masking essentially happens on a static level. So that basically means that whenever you're entering your card details, whenever you enter the number of your card details, whenever it is stored in the database, it is actually masked in a way where any external entity cannot actually see the first digits of your card number. And then we have data erasure. So the data that is not required to be stored anywhere should absolutely be erased. So for instance, you have your CVV number on your card, on the back of it, the three-digit number. Now, this three-digit number essentially authenticates transactions from your account. Now, Amazon or any other e-commerce website, when you're trying to buy a product from that website, asks you for that number. And if you enter that number and that number gets stored in the website's database and the website's database gets breached, obviously your CVV number is also leaked, right? And then the attacker can use your card number and your CVV number to basically take money out of your account. So that sort of thing should never be stored. It should be a one-time use only. Whenever they take your CVV number, it should be used and then it should be erased. Then you have data resilience. So data resilience exists for the odd case of when an attacker attacks your database in such a way that your data is lost. So this could be through causing a hardware or software failure or by simply deleting the data. Now, data resilience is obviously ensured by ensuring backups of that data on other devices as well. Let's talk about endpoint security now. Now, as the name suggests, endpoints are basically entry points or end user devices. So these could be laptops, these could be tablets, these could be mobile phones, these could be servers, essentially anything that is existing as a node in the network of things or the internet of things, right? This could also be your smart TV, your smart air conditioner, your smart refrigerator, right? Anything that is connected to your Wi-Fi router or your network. So anything that ensures security on these endpoints is called endpoint security. So if we look at the definition, endpoint security or endpoint protection is an approach to the protection of computer networks that are remotely bridged to client devices. These connections could exist between laptops, tablets, mobile phones, Internet of Things devices, and other wireless devices. So let us look at how endpoint security is important. So say for instance, you have a home network of devices. You have a Wi-Fi router, you have a server, you have a smartphone, and you have a laptop that are present in the network that you have, right? So the reason that you need to ensure that your endpoints are secured is that if the attacker gets access to any single one of the components in your network, he can potentially get access to all of the devices that are present in your network. So that is the reason you need to secure the endpoints as well, because these days everything exists on a network, and if something can get access to one node of your network, it can get access to multiple nodes on your network as well. So ways to implement endpoint security: educating and briefing personnel on cyber threats. So if you have a family, if you have employees in a business, you need to educate them on how to uh, ensure that they are not victims of cyber attacks or any sort of cyber threats. Right? We're going to be discussing these cyber threats in the next slide, but right now let us understand the remaining ones as well. Next is antivirus with event logs. So on all of the endpoint devices that we have, we need to install security measures if we are especially connected to the internet for that matter. So these could be through the default antivirus that your operating systems come with if they are adequate for the time, or these could be through third-party antivirus softwares as well. Just make sure you go with the antivirus that is popular in nature and actually keeps its antivirus database updated with the recent times. Then we have network security. So in order to ensure that no harmful messages or packets are being sent within the network, it is very important to ensure network security as well. It is also important to ensure network security to monitor if any endpoints on the network security are unknown in origin or are not supposed to be in that network. So that is why network security is important, because once you ensure network security, it is very difficult for an attacker to get access to the devices that are present in the network. Then strong passwords. So definitely use a password that is incredibly strong in nature. And then secure device policies. So you need to ensure that the installations, the software installations happening on your devices are secured by device policies. So that basically means softwares of unknown origins or of origins which could potentially lead to a data breach or an endpoint breach by any means should not be installed and should not be given administrative privileges at any cost. So these are the ways to implement endpoint security.